Welcome, pumpkins. This is our second online class that we've had so far because of everything that's going around us. We are going to be discussing today Unit 3, Lesson 5, and the title is Being and Linking Verbs. Okay. Before we get started, I need for you to you were supposed to, but make sure that you have the list of the 21 linking verbs close to you, whether you did it on a loosely paper or in your notebook, or if you did the sticky notes. Just make sure to have these linking verbs near you so that you can use it throughout the discussion. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to start with an introduction of the topic. A linking verb links the subject with a word in the predicate. A linking verb does not show action. Okay, so what a linking verb does, it links a word in the predicate to the subject. Now, it sort of like puts it together, holds it together. So it can either rename the subject or describe the subject. If the word that you find in the predicate, that is renaming the subject, the noun or pronoun that you have in the predicate to rename the subject, then it is a predicate noun. If the word that you find in the predicate is an adjective, then it's describing the subject and it's considered a predicate adjective. And I'm going to explain it much better in the next slides, okay? So as of now, just remember that a linking verb, for a verb to be a linking verb, it has to link a word in the predicate to the subject. And this takes me to my next slide. Now, we know that we've studied action verbs, we've studied helping verbs, we've studied being verbs, and now we are working with linking verbs. Now, notice, and I want you to focus on the right side of the circle because this is where you'd find the 21 linking verbs. Okay, notice that the first 8 linking verbs are being verbs as well. You know that being verbs are very useful. They were part of helping verbs when we studied the helping verbs, and now they are part of linking verbs as well. Okay, I gave you a list of 21. These are the basic linking of verbs, but linking verbs have other forms, and we will discuss that later on in the presentation. Okay, so here we have the list of the 21 linking verbs. So if you didn't get a chance to copy them in your notebook or on a loosely paper or on sticky notes, you can pause the video, copy the 21 linking verbs, and just keep it near you because you're going to use it throughout the presentation. Let's get started. Oh, let's continue, should I say, right? I'm so new at this. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. And I uploaded the table. It's in Google Classroom, so it's under material. So if you have not seen it yet, that's where you'd find this. Here, I wanted to give you a better view of the 21 linking verbs. If you notice, the first 8, as I said before, are being verbs, and the remaining verbs here on the table, the other verbs that are here on the table, are highlighted for a reason, and that's because these verbs that are highlighted in blue can be action verbs and they also act as linking verbs, okay? And in some cases, being verbs are also acting as helping verbs. So we have to be very cautious. We have to read the sentence carefully to be able to decide whether the verb is acting as a helping verb or as a linking verb or as a being verb. This whole lesson is all about linking verbs, okay? But I still need you to understand that verbs have different roles, they have different jobs, depending on the sentence, okay? So You can maybe come up with a song. You can rewrite the linking verbs a few times. Don't forget that these are the 21 linking verbs that you guys will be quizzed on. So it is important that you memorize it because you need to be able to, you need to identify the verb in the sentence as soon as you see it. Okay, you shouldn't have the paper next to you at all times to be able to recognize that that is a verb or not. Okay, so these are the 21 linking verbs. Again, the first 8 can also act as being verbs and as helping verbs. And the ones that are highlighted can act as action verbs and linking verbs. So be very cautious with sentences. Just read them carefully. All right? Okay. So this is something that I found, and I find very useful to check to see if a verb is acting as a linking verb. As I said before, this whole lesson is focused on linking verbs. So we need to check, we need to be sure, um, because right now this lesson is focused on linking verbs, so it'd be a bit easy for you to identify it as a linking verb. But once we get them all mingled in, I need to know that you guys can identify and can tell the difference between one and the other. Okay, so to check that a verb is a linking verb, I want you to try this test. A noun or pronoun that follows a linking verb should equal the subject, okay? So what does that mean? Example, Jonathan and Louis are in the store, okay? Once you read the sentence, you should immediately identify are as the verb of the sentence. Now, we know that it's a verb, but we have not yet labeled it a linking verb because we don't know if there is a word in the predicate that is linked to the subject. And for a verb to be a linking verb, it has to do that. It has to link a word in the predicate to the subject. There needs to be a word that either renames the subject or describes the subject, okay? So this is just a way to help you out. So we identify that are, this is the verb in the sentence, and we look at the predicate in the store. Do you see a noun or a pronoun on this side of the predicate? If you said store, you are correct. Store is a word that names a place, right? So you put Jonathan and Louis. Jonathan, Louis, these are the subjects. This is who or what the sentence is talking about. And we put an equal sign, and then we put the noun that we found in the predicate next to it. Jonathan and Louise equals store. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. It's incorrect. So in this sentence, are is not a linking verb, okay? In this sentence, are is acting as a being verb. It's just showing state of being. It just shows that they're in the store. That's it. Let's go to letter B. Jonathan and Louis are my cousins. Again, we identify the verb. We know that are is a being verb. It can act as a helping verb. It can act as a linking verb. So that's what we're trying to figure out, okay? So we get the subject and we pair it to the noun or pronoun that we find in the predicate. Cousins. Cousins is a noun. It's a word that's naming a person or people in this case. So we put Jonathan and Louis equal cousins. Could cousins rename Jonathan and Louis? When we're talking about Jonathan and Louis, could they be my cousins? Is that okay? That's correct. In this sentence, Jonathan and Louise are my cousins. Are is a linking verb because it is linking the word cousins to Jonathan and Louise. So are is the linking verb. Cousins is the linked word, and Jonathan and Louis are the subjects, okay? I hope that you're with me. If not, you can pause it. And this is just a test for you to try it out to help you out if you're confused. If you already got it, then good. If not, you can just pause it, go back again, review the table, and try to sort of make sense of this. Don't forget that the words that are going to be linked to the subject can either rename or describe. That's it. There is no other option. Okay? Perfect. Let's continue. Now, because we said that it's going to be either a noun or pronoun or an adjective, now we're going to focus on the adjective part. An adjective that follows a linking verb should make sense when placed before the subject. So, try this test in the previous slide, we focused on nouns and pronouns, and in this case, we're going to look for words that describe, okay? And what do we call words that describe? We call them adjectives. Yes. Okay. So let's look at the examples. Example A, Phoebe tasted the delicious hamburger. Now, because you have your table and because you've been reviewing the 21 linking verbs, you should be able to identify tasted as a verb in the sentence. We know that's the verb. We don't know if it's acting as an action verb. We don't know if it's acting as a linking verb. We don't know if it's acting as, what else? Action or linking, that's it. But we need to find out. We need to figure out if there are words in the predicate that are linked to the subject, that are related to the subject, that are renaming the subject, or describing the subject, then tasted would be a linking verb. If it's not, then it's not a linking verb, okay? So, Phoebe tasted the delicious hamburger. Again, we already identified the verb tasted, and now we are going to focus on the predicate, and we are mainly going to focus on adjectives. We're going to find words that we would use to describe. So we have the delicious hamburger, and if you said delicious, teacher, delicious is an adjective, you are correct. Delicious is an adjective, okay? Now, it's not just about looking for adjectives just because if there's an adjective, that's it. No, it has to be an adjective that describes the subject, okay? Now, we know that adjectives describe nouns. So we have to just look and double check that it actually describes the subject. And that's our main focus here. So it says here that an adjective that follows a linking verb should make sense when placed before the subject. Okay, so we identify delicious as being an adjective in this sentence. We're not sure whether it is describing the subject. That's why we are testing this out. So it says to place the adjective before the subject. So, delicious Phoebe? No, that doesn't make any sense. Delicious Phoebe. So, in this sentence, no, tasted is not a linking verb. The word delicious in this sentence, it's actually describing hamburger. It's saying how the hamburger is. It's a delicious hamburger. Okay? But it is not linking delicious to the subject. Not only that, in this sentence, the verb tasted is acting as an action because it's the subject is actually tasting the delicious hamburger. So in this sentence, tasted is acting as an action verb because the subject is actually performing the verb. They're tasting it, okay? All right, let's go to sentence B. The hamburger tasted delicious. And again, we identify tasted as being the verb of the sentence. We have to find out whether it's acting as an action verb or it's acting as a linking verb. So to try the test, to try it out, it said that we need to place the adjective before the subject. Yes, being very repetitive, Mrs. Viramosa. Yes, because we need to get that in our heads. If we see an adjective, this is the way that we can try it out. We can test it out by adding the adjective, before the subject. So we go to the predicate. The hamburger tasted delicious. We know that tasted is the verb and hamburger is our subject. So we see the word delicious again. So we see delicious and we identify it as an adjective. Yes, Ms. Villamosa, delicious is a word that describes. So yes, it is a It's an adjective. So what we need to find out now is whether or not delicious is actually describing the subject. So what do? We place the adjective before the subject. Delicious hamburger. Can you say that? Does that make sense? Oh, yes. Yes, because tasted in this sentence is a linking verb. It actually links the word delicious to the subject, which is hamburger. Okay? And in this case, because it's an adjective and we found it in the predicate, we're going to call it predicate adjective. It's just the way I'm trying to give you clues so that you know what to call it. Okay? I hope that you guys are with me. Again, you can pause it, go back. If I'm speaking too fast, you can just pause it, hear it again, and continue with the presentation. Okay, so let's work with some examples. Are you guys ready? Jirem, are you ready? I hope so, Pumpkin. Okay, so number one, the cake smells good. We identify, we identify the verb smell, and again, it's written on the list. It's and it could be in different forms. Just because on the table it says smell, it does not mean that it has to be spelled exactly like that. No, it could be smells, smelled in the past tense, will smell. So that's why I previously said that linking verbs have different forms, and I gave you the 21 base ones, but there are different forms to it. For example, smell. From smell alone, we can get smells, smelled, will smell, and I don't think there's another one, but those are the ones that I could think of at this moment. Okay, so the cake smells good. We identify smells as the verb in the sentence, and we know that the sentence, it's talking about the cake because it's who or what the sentence is about. The cake is what smells good. So cake is a subject, smells is a verb, but I cannot label it a linking verb yet because I need to know if there are words in the predicate that either rename, that means a noun or pronoun, that are renaming the subject, or an adjective, which is going to describe the subject, not another noun, nothing else but the subject. Okay, so we see the word good, and you're like, teacher, well, good is an adjective. Well, yes, good is an adjective. Let's see if good is it describing cake, though. Okay, so let's try it out. Remember that when you identify an adjective in the predicate, you're going to place it before the subject, and then you're going to ask yourself, good cake? Good cake. That was a good cake. That was some good cake. Yes, and it does make sense because in this sentence, smells is acting as a linking verb. Yes, it is linking the word good to cake. It's telling you how the cake smells. It smells good. Okay, are you guys with me? You ready for another one? Let's review for a minute. The word good is describing the cake. And because it is describing the cake, what do we call words that describe? If you said adjectives, you're correct. And because it was found in the predicate, we're going to call it predicate adjective. So the word good is describing the cake. It is a predicate adjective. Perfect. Are you guys with me? Can't hear you, but I hope so. Okay. Are you ready? Let's move on. Let's go to the next one. Okay. Excuse me. So, reviewing once again, smells is the verb. We already know that this is a linking verb because the word good, the adjective good, is linked to the subject. Wow, we got it. Did we get it? Okay, let's see. Let's move on. Oh, there it is, the subject. We already said that. Let's just continue. Okay, another example. G-Dam, don't make fun of me. I know you're making fun of me. Okay, so Barack Obama was the president of the United States. Barack Obama was the president of the United States. What do? We first identify the verb, and by now you should know that it was. Then we look at the predicate side. And on the predicate side, we're going to look for either nouns, pronouns, or adjectives, right? Because for a verb to be a linking verb, there has to be a word that either renames, a noun or pronoun, or describes, which means an adjective. And let's find the subject. What's the subject here? Barack Obama. Barack Obama. Okay, so Barack Obama is the subject. Is a verb. I'm trying to figure out whether it's acting as a linking verb or not. And then we have the word president of the United States. Okay, is there a word, a noun or pronoun or an adjective? Excuse my dog. Yes, we have president. President is a word that names a person, so it's a noun. So because it is a noun, remember that we were supposed to do what? We were supposed to, here we go again, we're circling the verb, and this is, we identified it as the linking verb because we have the word president to it, okay? And then here's the subject. Okay, so remember that we have to do what? We have to, when we find nouns in the predicate side, the word has to equal the subject. So we put Barack Obama equals president. Does that make sense? Barack Obama equals president. So yes, Barack Obama, he was a president. So president is a word that is used to rename Barack Obama. So in this sentence, was is acting as a linking verb. Okay? Are you guys with me? Perfect. So the word president is renaming Barack Obama, and because it is renaming, it is a predicate noun. Okay? Perfect. So now we have linking verbs versus action verbs. And remember when I was showing you the table, I said that there are some, the ones that were highlighted, that they could act as linking or action verbs. So we have to be very careful with those. We need to read the sentence carefully and decide whether the subject is performing the action, is the subject actually doing the action, or is there a word that renames or describes the subject? So let's see. The crowd looked at the divers. Now, because you have you have the 21 linking verbs close to you, you find look, and notice that here, because I already told you that there are different forms to the linking verbs. You see the verb look, but in the sentence it's in the past tense. It's still a verb that can either be a linking verb or an action verb, okay? So the crowd looked at the divers. Now we have to ask ourselves, is this something that the crowd is actually doing? Or is there a word in the predicate that renames or describes the subject? So we have the crowd looked at the divers. We identified the subject, we have the verb, and then in the predicate we have at the divers. At the divers. So is there a noun that we can maybe pair up with the subject? You could say, well, we could do crowd equals divers. The crowds are divers. But then it wouldn't make sense that they're looking, right? They looked at the divers. Not only that, but what is this called? What is this right here? When you guys were in 5th grade, you had to learn it with a song. And I'm always teaching you guys different things with songs. So maybe you don't recall what it is by me using the reference songs. But those of you that said preposition, yes, at is a preposition. So at the divers is a prepositional phrase. You are not going to find a predicate noun or predicate adjective after a preposition. So not only because there is a preposition in the predicate, but Also, because in this sentence, the crowd is actually performing the action. They're looking at the divers. That's like me standing in front of you, looking right at you, right? I'm performing the action of looking because I'm looking right at you. And that's what they were doing, okay? The crowd looked at the divers. So in this sentence, looked is acting as an action verb because the subject, which is the crowd, is performing the action of looking, as I said before, okay? So I know that it can be a bit confusing, but just think of it. Is that something that I can do? Uh, Looked, can I stand in front of someone and just look at them? Yes, if you can do that, then you're acting it out. You are performing the action. So in that case, it's not a linking verb. It would be an action verb. Let's go to the next example. The runners looked tired. Now, I identified looked as a verb. It can either be action or linking. That's what I'm trying to figure out. And I identified the subject, which is runners, because it's who or what the sentence is about. And I look at the predicates and I see the word tired. And remember how when I showed you the try this test, it said that you could use the adjective before the subject. And if it sort of made sense, then the verb was acting as a linking verb. Let's try it out. Tired runners. Does that make sense? Yes, it does. Look at that poor runner, man. His tongue is sticking out. Okay, so remembered tired runners. It just makes sense. You can talk about tired runners. So looked in this sentence is a linking verb, okay? Because the adjective tired is describing runners. They're saying how they look. They look tired. They're not performing anything. They just look tired, okay? So tired describes runners. And because tired describes runners, this is a predicate adjective, okay? And looked, again in this sentence, is acting as a linking verb. Okay, so remember how I told you that there are different forms to linking verbs? Okay, this takes me to verb phrases. Okay, remember that if a verb phrase ends with an action verb, then the whole phrase is called an action verb. Let's look at the first sentence. The cake has been baking for an hour. Okay, so we see the word baking. And we can identify, because we've worked with verb phrases before, you can identify baking as being the main verb in this verb phrase, has been baking. Because don't forget that for a verb phrase, to be a verb phrase, you need helping verb or helping verbs and the main verb. And you're always going to focus on the main verb, because that's like the comparison that I made with Batman and Robin. Remember that the main verb is Batman, it's the powerful one in the phrase. So in this case, baking is acting as an action verb, okay? Has been baking. And action verbs are somehow easier to identify than linking verbs, or maybe being verbs sometimes. So if a verb phrase ends with an action verb, and don't forget that for that you have to look at the main verb, then the whole phrase is called an action verb. Now, if a verb phrase ends with a linking verb, it's a verb phrase, and you identify that the main verb is acting as a linking verb because there's a word in the predicate that is linked. It's describing the subject or renaming the subject. Then the whole verb phrase is called a linking verb. Example, in this verb phrase was being. Being, again, is the main verb, okay? And we see the word sweet in the sentence. And we see the subject, which is baby. And this word, sweet, is describing the subject, okay? So This is the linked word. Sweet is linked to the subject, which means that being in that sentence is acting as a linking verb. Okay, and because the linked word is an adjective, then it becomes a predicate adjective. Okay, now if the verb phrase ends with a state of being verb, then the whole phrase is a state of being verb. So in this case, you're going to focus on, again, you're going to focus on the main verb. And in this case, John has never been to a soccer game. Been is the main verb, and it's just saying that he's never been. It's just showing a state of being. Okay, it could have easily said John has been there to a soccer game. So in this case, it's just acting as a state of being verb, and this whole verb phrase, it turns into a state of being verb as well. So when we're talking about linking verbs, don't think that it's just going to be one word and it's going to be, it cannot be a verb phrase, because as I explained it in with the second example, a linking verb can also be part of a verb phrase. Okay, and you know that for a verb phrase, you need a helping verb and a main verb. Okay, let's continue. So, being in the second sentence is acting as a linking verb because it links the word sweet, the adjective, to baby. It's describing how the baby was. The baby was sweet. Okay. And again, been in the third sentence, it just circling the main verb so we can focus on that. And here it's just acting as a being verb. Okay. Now we're going to get ready, or we're getting ready, we're going to discuss pages 129 through 130 from Unit 3, Lesson 5. At this point, you don't need the book because I wrote the sentences for you. If you want to, get the book so that you can have it, so you can review, because I'm only going to cover the first 14 sentences and you want to continue with the rest just to practice, you may do so. That's fine. Okay? But if you don't have your book, then that's okay. I uploaded the pages as well, so they should be under materials. I know that not a lot of students were able to get the books or notebooks from the school because everything happened so quickly. So I uploaded, I'm going to upload everything for you guys so that every single one of you have, you guys have access to all the materials, okay? So let's review. Linking verbs link the subject with the word and the predicate, and this is why at the beginning of the lesson I used a chain. You know how a chain is, it's put together, it's like linked, every single rod, it's like put together, like together with each other. So a linking verb links the subject with the word and the predicate. The word can be a predicate noun or a predicate adjective. When can it be a predicate noun? Well, when it renames the subject. It usually answers to what. Okay? Example, Mr. Casillas is our coach. We identify is as the verb. Okay? And then we have Mr. Casillas. Mr. Casillas is the subject. So we could ask, Mr. Casillas is what? And our answer is coach. Okay? Also, if you do the example, like I told you before that the noun has to equal the subject, if we put Mr. Casillas equals coach, if that makes sense, well, then not only is acting as a linking verb, but the word coach is a predicate noun, okay, because it's renaming the subject. Second example, he has become my friend. Here we identify the verb, which is has become, okay? Here it's another example of what become. If you look at the table, you're going to see become. And now you have has become because this is another form of the linking verb, become. So has become is the linking verb. And now we can either ask he has become what? And then we have friend. So there is actually a word that is linked. Friend renames he. Okay. So also another thing that we can do is we can say she, oh, sorry, I made a mistake there. So let me fix that right now. And I apologize for that, but this has not been rehearsed. So I made a mistake. You know me, I tell you, making mistakes, it's okay. Let's continue. Okay, so we were here. He has become my friend. We can say he has become what? And friend would be the word that tells me what he has become. So friend, it's renaming he. Okay. And another way that you can test it out. What happened? I thought I fixed it. Did I not hit save? Let's see. I did. So from current slide, let's see. It's still not. What's going on? Okay. So I'm trying to fix it. I thought I did. Oh, I did it in the wrong one. That's what happened. Okay, so here we go. I know. I know that you guys caught that before I did, but you didn't tell me. Okay, so let me save it again and let's continue. Is it okay to make mistakes? Yes, it is. We all make mistakes. It happens. It's okay. All right, so he has become my friend. He has become what? Friend. And also we can do an equal. He equals friend. So yes, that makes sense. So has become is the linking verb because it links the word friend. It renames the subject he. Okay, so friend is a predicate noun because it renames the subject. And I'm repeating myself because the going back and fixing sort of distracted me. So I just want to be sure that you get this. Okay. It could also be a predicate adjective. And when is it a predicate adjective? When it describes the subject. And it usually answers to how. Let's look at two examples. Mrs. Roman was friendly. You can ask, Mrs. Roman was how? Friendly. Friendly describes how Mrs. Roman was. So friendly, it's an adjective that is describing Mrs. Roman. So was is acting as a linking verb. We forgot to identify the verb first. So was is the verb. We see the word friendly describing Mrs. Roman. So um, because it's describing the subject, yes, it is a predicate adjective. Okay. Um, Another thing that you can do, remember how we can put the adjective before the subject, friendly, Mrs. Roman. Does that make sense? Right? She was a friend. She was friendly. Friendly, Mrs. Roman helps me out. So again, the verb was is acting as a linking verb, and friendly is describing Mrs. Roman. So it is a predicate adjective, and it's kind of easy, right? If it renames, it's a noun, and because again it's found in the predicate, we call it predicate noun. Predicate adjective, we find an adjective in the predicate. Predicate adjective, adjective in the predicate. Wow, I know. That describes the subject. So there we have it. Okay. Also, I want to mention that when you guys, when you get to higher grades, the predicate noun is going to be known as predicate nominative. So it's also good for you to hear it because when you, as I said, when you get to higher grades, that's how it's going to be called. All right. So let's look at the next sentence. She appeared shy to strangers. We identify the verb appeared, and we can ask, we identify the subject, she. She appeared how? She appeared shy. So shy is a word that is describing the subject, okay? So when a word describes the subject, it's known or it's called a predicate adjective. Okay. So let's do some practice. Are you ready? Okay. There are two things that we are going to answer, and we are on page 130 out of the English book. There are two things that we are going to answer. One, what is the linking verb in each sentence? And two, what is the predicate noun or predicate adjective? For the students that were able to participate in the virtual meeting that we had, we discussed it, and we, every single one of my students, most of them anyways, were able to go over the sentences, read it, and identify the verbs and then the predicate noun or predicate adjective. But in this case, we're going to have to do it together. I'm going to have to answer it for you guys. So I really hope that you stay with me and that you're really paying attention, okay? So number one, the Black Hills are really mountains. First thing that we have to do, and I had one of my pumpkins teach me today that I have some tools that I can use to make this a lot better. So I'm going to take advantage of that. Perfect. Okay. So we identify the linking verb, which is are, right? We're able to identify it's already saying that, what is the linking verb in each sentence. So you already know that every single one of these verbs are linking verbs, okay? So the main focus here is on identifying the subject, because anytime, repeat it with me, anytime, say it one more time, anytime you work with linking verbs, it is going to work with the subject. It has a relationship with the subject, okay? So we also identify the subject, Black Hills, okay? And we're gonna look here at the predicate, and is there a word or words that are either renaming or describing the subject? Black Hills. Black Hills are what? Black Hills are how? Right, mountains. Mountains renames Black Hills. So mountains, it's renaming the subject Black Hills. So is it a predicate noun or is it a predicate adjective? That's what you guys are getting ready to tell me, right? When you rename, is it a predicate noun? You look at the word mountains, is it a noun, a pronoun, or is it an adjective? If you answered noun, then you are correct. So in this case, mountains is a predicate noun. Good job. Okay. So let's go to number 2. Thunderhead Mountain is part of the Black Hills. We identify is as the linking verb in the sentence. And then give me a second, then we identify the subject, and I'm just gonna go bold, yes. I'm gonna make, okay, no, never mind. I got too excited too quickly. That didn't work. But Thunderhead Mountain is the subject in the sentence. So now I'm going to look in the predicate, and I'm going to see if I see a noun, pronoun, or an adjective. Is there a word in the predicate that either renames or describes the subject? Okay, I have part of the Black Hills. So I have part, okay, a part, it's a word that names a thing. And then I have Black Hills, which is, in this case, it's a proper noun because it's naming a specific place, okay? But I want you to be very careful. What is this here that we have? What is this called? Oh, got too excited. Let me try that again. Wait. As I told you, this is not rehearsed. So Mrs. Villamosa is going to make a few mistakes, and that's okay. Okay, so let's look at the word of. 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 What is of? Of is, it's what? Say it louder. Yes, the preposition, you got it. So when you have a preposition in the predicate, you have to be super careful because, I'm going to tell you now what it is. Because of the Black Hills, right here, This would be considered a prepositional phrase. We have not covered that yet in English class, but what I want you to do is this. You see a preposition and it's going to end with a noun that is called the prepositional phrase. Okay? And when that happens, words after preposition are not going to be the predicate noun or the predicate adjective. Are you listening to this? So part of the Black Hills is your complete predicate. You identified is as your linking verb. So part of the Black Hills is where you're going to find your predicate noun or your predicate adjective. But I just told you that when there's a preposition in the predicate, words after preposition cannot be the predicate noun or the predicate adjective. So, what do you think the answer is going to be? Come on, I'm going to give you a minute to think of it. Is there a noun that either renames or describes the subject? You guys are so smart. If you said part, yes, part is a word that renames Thunderhead Mountain. Okay? It's saying that it's a part. So in this case, because it's renaming the subject, is it a predicate noun or is it a predicate adjective? If you said predicate noun, then you are once again correct, my friend. You guys are so smart. My pumpkins are so smart. I know, I always tell you that. Okay, let's go to number 3. Someday the mountaintop will become a huge statue. First thing that we're going to do is we are going to identify the linking verb. What is the linking verb in this sentence? If you said become, you're almost correct. Is there such a thing as almost correct? No, it would be incorrect. But I'm still going to give you a chance. Look at the word before become. For those of you that said just become. Do you remember? Do you recognize will? Right? Remember that song that we learned? Na, 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 na. Yes, will is a helping verb. So don't forget that linking verbs can also be verb phrases. So will become is the linking verb in this sentence. Now let's identify the subject. Someday the mountaintop, excuse me. So what are we talking about? Who or what are we talking about? Are we talking about someday? Are we talking about mountaintop? If you said mountaintop, you are correct, my friend. And you, as I said before, you guys are smart. So now, someday the mountaintop, so we're talking about the mountaintop will become, we can say mountaintop will become what? Mountaintop will become how? And if you look at the predicate, we see huge and we see statue. Okay. Ay, mi Sibia Hermosa, I have an adjective, huge, and I have statue, which is a noun. Well, when this happens, you have to be careful because don't forget that either the noun, pronoun, or adjective, they need to be linked to the subject. So if you see an adjective, that adjective needs to describe the subject, not another word. If you found a noun, that noun that you found in the predicate has to rename the subject. Okay? Nothing else. So let's read this again. Will become a huge statue. Let's look at the adjective first. Huge. Is huge talking about mountaintop? Is it saying that the mountaintop will become huge? No. In this case, the adjective huge is actually describing statue. Okay? So huge is not linked to the subject. So is this the word that is linked? It's not. Let's go to statue. Mountaintop will become what? Mountaintop will become a statue. Is this linked to the subject? Is this actually renaming what mountaintop will become? Yes, if you answered yes, not only because you're so smart, but because you're getting this. So statue, oh, what did I do? Oh my goodness. Okay, no, that's not gonna work for me. Statue, let's just do a straight line, right? Maybe a curvy one, different one. There you go. Oh, let's just do a straight line. Okay, so statue is actually renaming the subject, which is mountaintop. And because it's renaming, statue is a predicate noun. Okay? Are you with me? May I continue? Say yes. Tell me again. Okay. I'm kidding. I know. Okay. So number 4, the statue will be a profile of Chief Crazy Horse. So identify the verb, identify the linking verb. What is the linking verb in this sentence? If you said, I'm going to change this color for a minute. If you said will be, you got it. Okay. Be is on that list, the 21 list, linking verb list that I gave you. And you already know, because we already worked with this, that will is a helping verb. So this verb phrase is a linking verb, this whole phrase. Now, let's identify the subject. The subject here is statue. Oh my gosh. Okay, no, this is not working. Let's do it again. I'm trying to cover the whole word so it looks pretty. You guys know me. Okay, so statue is the subject, and now I have to focus on the predicate, and I have to find a word that either renames or describes. Oh, but see something here that I have to be careful with. What is this? Yes, a preposition. So we already talked about how words after preposition cannot be either predicate noun or predicate adjective. So what are the options that we have? We have a profile. Those are the options that we have. So profile, yes, it's a noun. It's a word that names a thing, a profile. So profile is renaming the statue. It's saying what the statue will be. Statue will be a profile. So profile is a word that it's renaming the subject. And when we rename it, what do we call that? When a word renames it, I'm trying to make this small, but apparently I can't. So this is a predicate noun. And I'm going to write the word profile because I can't really see it. So profile is the word that is linked to statue, so it is a predicate noun. Okay, so number 5, Chief Crazy Horse was a Sioux Indian chief. Let's identify the linking verb, was. Let's identify the subject, who or what the sentence is about. And I'm going to try to see if I could change the color. Ooh, let's use my favorite color. So Chief Crazy Horse, nice and pretty in a lavender color. So Chief Crazy Horse is who the sentence is about. And now I'm going to focus on the predicate side. Now, do you see any nouns or adjectives that could describe or rename Chief Crazy Horse? Chief Crazy Horse was what? Chief Crazy Horse was how? Is there a word? If you said Sioux Indian, no, you have to rethink what you're doing right now. Because Sioux Indian, it's actually describing the chief. Okay? So if you're smart, you caught on that, and you know that chief is the word that it's renaming the subject. Okay? Chief Crazy Horse equals chief. Yeah, that makes sense, right? Perfect. So because it's a word that renames, this box is so big and I can't make it smaller. Because it's a word, let me do it here. Let me see if I can move it. Yeah, let's do it right here. Because, and I'm going to do number 5 so you know that this goes with sentence number 5. The word chief, because it's renaming the subject, it's a predicate now. Awesome. Let's go to number 6. The statue is rough now. We identify the verb, which is, right? If you are still unable, you cannot identify the verb, look at your list of 21 linking verbs, okay? And you need to memorize it because you will be quizzed on that, okay? Awesome. We go ahead and we identify the subject. Who or what is this about? We're talking about the statue. So statue is the subject. I know, I was a little too close. Let me see if I can make it look better. Huh. Let's try this again. I want a nice, beautiful circle to cover the whole word. I think I got it. Okay, so statue is who or what the sentence is about, which makes it the subject. Now I'm going to focus on the predicate, and I'm going to look for a word that it could be either noun or pronoun or an adjective. Is there an adjective or a noun or pronoun that either rename or describe the subject? Rough, right? Rough is an adjective. It answers to the statue is how? Is rough, okay? Or if you use the other the testing part that I showed you, if you add the adjective before the subject, we would say rough statue, and it would still make sense. So rough is the word that describes the subject. And now, because it describes the subject, what do we call it? What do we call it? And I'm going to add a number 6 here so we know that this is the answer for number 6. And I don't think that color is doing it for me. So let me change this to black so it really pops out. And I think I should do the same thing. Oh, wait a minute. Bear with me, guys. Again, this has not been rehearsed. And because your teacher is so special, right? So this is the answer for number 5. And because it renames chief, renames the subject, it's a predicate noun. And we were doing number 6. So let's do number 6 a bit closer here so we know that this is for number 6. I'm still going to put the number 6 there so you don't get confused. Now, rough, we said that it's an adjective. So this is a predicate adjective. Oops. Okay. Let's make this a bit bigger so that it fits. Okay, perfect. So I hope that you guys are getting this. It's pretty easy, and I hope that you are really getting it. Okay. So number 7, the work on it seems slow. So we immediately identify the verb. What is the verb in this sentence? If you cannot identify, go to that list, look it up. Okay, here you go. You found it? Yep. Seems. You're right. Seems is the linking verb in this sentence. Now I want you to find the subject. And if you said work, you are on fire, my friend, because work is the subject because it's what we're talking about. Okay, so we can either ask work seems what, work seems how, and if there's an answer to work seems what, there's no answer. Let's try it again. Work seems how. Oh, work seems slow. Slow, it's a word that describes work. So you can do that, or we could do it the other way, which is adding the adjective before the subject. So we would say slow work. Yeah, that makes sense. Slow work. Okay, so we know that slow is the word that describes work. And because it describes work, then it is acting as as what? Yep, you got it. Oh my goodness, you guys are so smart. Predicate adjective. You guys are doing so great. Okay, so are you guys with me? Yes? Okay, so we still have a few more sentences that we have to work on, and we're almost done. Okay. Bear with me for a minute. Okay. Now, let me go back, and there's some undo that I have to do because this was from previous sentences. So we need to delete all of these lines and circles and labels because they don't belong with these sentences. Okay. I'm almost there, we're almost there. I'm deleting. Wow, this is so cool. Okay. So let me see. Okay, so number 8, it says, and we're doing the same thing. We're finding what the linking verb is in each sentence and what is the predicate noun or predicate adjective in the sentence. So number 8, 6 groups eventually became part of in this word, do you know how to pronounce it? Iroquois nation. It's a difficult one, right? Iroquois nation. So we identify, let me get my lines here. We identify the verb, which is became. We also identify the subject, who or what is this talking about. We're talking about groups, so we circle groups. And I think I'm starting to get better at this. Maybe not so much, but anyway. And then we ask ourselves, groups became what? Groups became how, and we focus on the predicate side, part of the Iroquois nation. If you identified the preposition of, you are on a roll, yes, which means that of the Iroquois nation cannot be the answers to either the predicate noun or predicate adjective, because I already explained that to you. So what do we have? The only thing that we have left is we have part. So part is the word in the predicate that is renaming the groups. Groups became what? Became part. Part is a noun, and because it is a noun and it's renaming the subject, this is a predicate noun. I've got it. Okay, number 9. One group was the Mohawks. We identify, let me do this in a different color. We identify the verb, linking verb was, and what happened here? Didn't take it. Okay, let me get another color. I said I wanted another color. Oh, it's not doing it. Huh, okay. Okay, it's not working. No problem. Okay, here we go. Okay, so was is the linking verb. Okay, and then after that, what do? We identify the subject. I hope that you guys are still watching because this is not over yet. Subject is group, and then we look at the predicate, and we look for either nouns, pronouns, or adjectives, and the only word that we have here is Mohawks. So Mohawks is renaming group, and because it's renaming, what are we going to call it? Can't hear you. Okay, the predicate noun. Yes, I got it. Why are you screaming? Okay. So I know. How do I do it? I know. Okay. So let's go to number 10. The Mohawks were enemies of another Iroquois group. We do the same thing, guys. This is so repetitive, right? We identify the linking verb. We also identify the subject, because anytime we're working with linking verbs, we know that we have to keep our eyes on the subject. And then we look for words, either a noun or pronoun or an adjective in the predicate side that either rename or describe the subject. And because you guys are so super smart, I know that you guys identified the preposition of, which means that words after the preposition cannot be the predicate noun or the predicate adjectives. So we found enemies, okay? Well, not that you guys found enemies, that's not what I mean. You know what I mean. Enemies is the word that renames Mohawks, okay? Again, Mohawks were what? Enemies, okay? And okay, so then because it's renaming, excuse me, because it's renaming it, it's a predicate noun. Okay, so let's go to number 11. Number 11, okay, it's Hiawatha was a powerful chief of the Mohawks. Okay, this is pronounced Hiawatha. Write it in syllables, and this is Hiawatha. So Hiawatha was a powerful chief of the Mohawks. Again, we do the same thing. We identify, I know, let's change colors. Let's do a different color. Yes, let's do a different color. So, oh, wait. So let me erase this because I want it in a different color, and then I have to go back here. Okay, so we identify the verb, which is was, and we identify the subject as well. Who or what are we talking about? We're talking about Hiawatha. So we circle this in, and then we look at, what do we look at? We look on the predicate side. And those of you, because again, I have so many smart students, I know that you identified the preposition in the sentence, and that arrow was kind of crooked, so I want it straight. So let's see if I can do it. Okay, so you identified of, which means that words after of cannot be a preposition. So, okay, let's see. Now, the only two options that we have powerful and we have chief. So I want to give you a minute to think of it and try to come up with the right answer. So we have two words, powerful and we have chief. So now you have to decide. Let's look at powerful, because whichever word you find, it has to, don't forget that it has to either rename or describe the subject, okay? So if you said powerful, excuse my dog, Bendito. If you said powerful, oh, wait a minute, bear with me for just one quick second, because my dog wants to go out. Okay. Powerful, it's actually describing the chief, okay? It's not describing Hiawatha. Hiawatha was powerful. No, it's in this case, it is describing chief. So now let's look at the word chief. Hiawatha was what? Hiawatha equals chief. Well, that makes more sense. So the word chief is the word that it's renaming Hiawatha. So if it renames it, we know that the word chief is what? A predicate noun. Yes. Okay, number 12, I promise we're almost done, okay? So just bear with me. Chief Crazy Horse was a Sioux Indian chief. And this may sound familiar because we worked with a sentence that was similar to this one. So again, we do the same thing. We identify the linking verb, in this case it was. And then we identify the subject, Chief Crazy Horse. Right, this is a proper noun. Notice the capital letters. It's naming a specific person. So this is a subject. And now we have to look for words in the predicate that are describing or renaming the subject, nothing else. And if you remember from the previous sentence, you remember that Sioux Indian are words that are describing chief. So this one you guys already know that chief is the word that it's renaming Chief Crazy Horse. So Chief Crazy Horse was what? A chief. Okay. Or you could say Chief Crazy Horse equals a chief. Does that make sense? Yes, it does as well. So because it renames, and I'm going to add it here and I'm going to lower it just a little bit. So, and I'll identify this one as number 12 so that you know that this answer goes with number 12. This is a predicate noun. Let me extend this just a little bit so that it fits right there. Okay. Number 13. This poem is the Song of Hiawatha. Now, we identify, almost done, bear with me, is the linking verb, okay? Then we identify the subject, who or what are we talking about? Poem is what we're talking about, right? I hope you said yes, because it is. And now, I forgot to mention, and I just saw this when I remembered, that a predicate noun can be a compound noun, which means that it could be more than one word. Okay, remember that anytime you hear the word compound, you're going to think of two or more. And here I'm going to help you out because when you look at this Song of Hiawatha, this whole thing, it's renaming the poem because this is actually the name of the poem. I don't know if you can notice, if you noticed that Song of Hiawatha, it's a bit slanted, it's a bit tilted. That means that it's sort of sideways. And that's because it's the name of the poem. So this is renaming the poem, and when a word in the predicate renames the subject, we call it predicate. I'm going to abbreviate it, predicate noun. Okay. Let's go to the next one, number 14. We're almost done, guys. Bear with me. Hiawatha felt unhappy because of the wars. So we identify the verb. What is the verb in this sentence? What is it? Yep, felt. Now, if you look at the list of 21 linking verbs, and I'm not going to use the same color. Let me go back and erase it. I want a different color. What color to choose? Yep, let me go with red. So felt is the linking verb. And as I was saying, if you go back to the table, you're going to notice that on the table, it says feel, right? But because I told you that there are different forms to those linking verbs, you have feel, but felt is the past tense of feel, which means that it's just a different form, but it's still a linking verb. It could be feel, felt, feels, will feel, okay? Or has felt. So you just have to be careful with that. They're different forms. So we identified the linking verb, and now we are going to identify, circle, the subject, Hiawatha. Almost got it right, but you guys get the point. And we are going to look at the predicate, and we're going to find any either nouns or pronouns or adjectives in the predicate that either rename or describe the subject, not any other word, the subject. So we look at the predicate. Do you see an adjective? Do you see a word that names a person, a place, a thing, or idea? Do you see a noun? Okay, if you said unhappy, you're right. And if you said war, you're right. Unhappy is an adjective, and war is a noun. Yes. But if you are with me, You also said, but there's a preposition, Mrs. Villamosa, which means that words after the preposition, this is called a prepositional phrase. It starts with a preposition and it ends with a noun. Um, Words after a preposition cannot be the predicate noun or the predicate adjective, which means that we cannot use the word was. So let's go to unhappy and just double check. We can either ask, Hiawatha felt how? Oh, Hiawatha felt unhappy. Okay. Or we can just do it the other way, which is where we add the adjective in front of the subject and we say, unhappy Hiawatha? That makes sense as well. So in this case, unhappy, oh, that's not it. Unhappy, excuse me, unhappy is the word that is describing, the word that is linked to the subject because it describes it. And because it describes it, it is a predicate adjective. Yes, you got it. Okay, so I hope that this whole presentation helps. Okay, I hope that you're able to work on your extra practice without any problems. Okay, you guys can do this on your own. I'm going to schedule, and for those people that were not able to join us today, every Wednesday at 1 p.m., God permits, we're going to meet using Zoom. Okay, so every Wednesday at 1 p.m., we have a date. Okay, all right, so let me undo all of these lines because I have to go to the next slide. Guys, linking verbs. Don't forget to study the linking verbs. You need to know them by heart. You need to memorize it. Come up with a song and then share it with me. Okay, and share it with the group. Why not? But you have to study them. Okay, so let's go to our next slide. And that's all, folks, as my good friend Bugs Bunny says. Now you guys can work on the extra practice on page 170. You should be okay to work with it. Okay. Good thing about this is that you can hit pause, you can go back, you can see the presentation again, do whatever you have to do to get this. And if you are still having problems with any with the pages, with any of the exercises, please email me. Okay, and I'll email back as soon as I read it. I promise. So love you. I miss you guys, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.